Okay, and I think we are recording. Okay, hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first episode of WrestleShadow. My name is Prem Deshpande, and today, who better to start with than someone who actually believes and has proven that anyone with two hands has a fighting chance. James Ellsworth, welcome.
That's right. Any man with two hands, but maybe not a chin, has a fighting chance, right?
Yeah, that's so typical of your character. You're never out of character, are you? But we'll get into that. But I want to start with the line that I actually opened with. Uh, Any man with two hands has a fighting chance. I want to know who came up with that. Was it you? Was it someone else? And did you know at the time, when you look back now, that it would blow up the way that it did?
Well, I knew in the match I was going to punch Strowman twice, and they had given me the promo which was essentially like your last words before Strowman was going to kill you. And I was looking through the promo that Jimmy Jacobs wrote. He was a writer at the time there at WWE, and I loved the promo. And I asked him. I said, "Can I say any man with two hands has a fighting chance? Because I'm punching him twice." He's like, "Yeah, it's a good line. Go ahead and say it." Like I don't think he thought much of it. But in the movie Rocky Five, he says, "I figure if you have two hands, you have a chance." So I kind of took that and made my own little spin on it, and it was my words. And no, I didn't think it. I didn't think it'd catch on like that or anything. I just wanted to say it because I knew I was punching Strowman twice in the match, and man, that's awesome that my own words caught on with the audience. So cool.
So you did discuss it with Jimmy Jacobs beforehand.
Yes.
And what was his reaction to it? Did he think that this would, wow, this is like Mazel Tov, this is going to be big?
No, he just was like I just said, he was like, "Oh, it's a good line. You can go ahead and say it." Like he didn't think much of it. He was just like, "Yeah, you can say that line. I don't care. It's cool." Which, man, if he would have told me no, I would have listened and I would have never said it. So thank God for Jimmy Jacobs and him saying yes to that. Because if he didn't, I'd have never said it, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, he's a great guy. He was a great writer. And hopefully, he writes somewhere else for some. I think he did AEW for a little bit. I'm not too sure. I haven't seen him in a while, but he was a great writer for WWE, and I think he should be writing for one of the big companies still for sure.
Hmm. Wow, that's interesting because it makes me wonder if so many of these one-liners are do they come up just like that? Like I think of "You Can't See Me." I mean, imagine John Cena coming up with that, and the writer telling him, "No, no, no, don't go with that." Like the world would never have known.
Well, it goes back to Austin 316. He just said he like after he defeated Jake the Snake Roberts at King of the Ring, 1997 or 1996. He said Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. Like it just popped in his head. So you never know what's gonna like catch on or not. Like sometimes it might be something written, or sometimes it might be your instinct. And and for me, I didn't know it was going to catch on, but it was instinctive for me to say that line because I knew I was punching Strowman twice in the match, and I figured this little underdog character against this big gigantic man, why would I be fighting him? And to me, it's because any man with two hands has a fighting chance. I'm going to give this a try. So
Wow, interesting. So take me back to the that match against Braun Strowman, because it was, if I'm not wrong, it was supposed to be like a fairly regular squash match, and then of course it turned you into this gigantic WWE superstar. What went on before, and what went on in your head after the match aired? Did you imagine that this is the sort of career that you'd have in the WWE? This is the door that it was actually opening for you?
well, obviously not before the match. Before the match, all I kept thinking was I want to do a good job because my thinking at the time was this may be my only time I'm ever going to be on Monday Night Raw or in WWE at all in a match. So I just want to do a good job. I want to look back on this and know that this 90-second match I had on Monday Night Raw, I wanted to feel like I did good with it. I did a good job with it. And that's all I kept thinking is, man, I'm going to sell my ass off. I'm going to, the facial expressions. I'm going to act scared when it's time to act scared. I'm going to act like it's ready to go when it's time to go. And, like these stories you could tell with your face. And then when he beat me up, I was like, man, I just need to sell. And That's all I kept thinking. But yeah, and then match happens and the promo happens before the match and everything, and I was feeling like it was going well. So when the match was over, I was like, okay, that felt good. I didn't think anything of it. I just figured it was good enough for them or whatever. And I get to the back, and Arn Anderson, who was the agent for the match, said, "Hey, good job." He goes, "Vince wants to see you." And I've never, up until this point, I've never talked to Vince McMahon. Like I saw him in a hallway a few times when I was an extra or a enhancement guy in the back, just waiting to get an opportunity. And so I go see Vince, and he comes and he takes his headset off and he comes over and talks to me. He goes, "Hey, your facial expressions were great. Your selling was great. Your promo was fantastic. He said, I have no choice but to hire you."
Wow.
I'm like, "Whoa." I'm like, and I was like, "Oh, thank you." And he goes, "I'll be in touch." He said, "Go see talent relations." And I'm just like still like rattled from the match because Braun Strowman's a tough guy. He beat the crap out of me, and so I'm still like getting myself together. I'm like, wait, did he just say? Do I have a concussion? Did he just say he's gonna hire me? And I'm like walking away, and Triple H comes find me. He goes, "Hey man," he goes, "He's not kidding. He wants to hire you." He goes, "So if you want to be here, here's your chance." I'm like, yeah, yeah, I want to be here. Yes, of course. So I think people think it was like all the stuff on the internet afterwards. The internet's a funny place, right? People in their minds thought because they made memes of me and were sharing me a lot, which I appreciated. They thought that's why I got hired. That's not at all true. The truth is, Vince McMahon just hired me right after the match because he thought I was good. So that's the truth.
Yeah. Wow, that's pretty awesome. Which actually makes me a bit curious about your journey in wrestling and in life growing up, James. Of course, people like me and so many others who follow WWE and who've been following WWE for so many years growing up, we of course got to know of you when you broke onto the scene in the WWE. But if I'm not wrong, you've been in the around the wrestling circuit since 2002, I believe. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so how's that journey been for you, and if you could share a bit about where you grew up and how that kind of the conduit from your early years to your pro wrestling career.
Yeah, so I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, here in the United States. It's near Washington D.C., about an hour away. I know everyone's familiar with Washington D.C., right?
Yeah,
So we're only
thank you for
about
that reference.
yeah. So we're only about an hour from there, and I always loved wrestling since I can remember. I remember being a kid and seeing the Ultimate Warrior for the first time and thinking, "Wow, this guy looks cool," and I was just hooked. And it's something I always wanted to do, and I was always small and I was always like, never looked like somebody that could be a wrestler, right? But that stuff never bothered me. Like I always just wanted to pursue it. I always just wanted to be a wrestler. And growing up where I did, it wasn't easy. Like, I went through a lot of trials and tribulations, just like I do in wrestling. But um, I've loved every minute of wrestling. I was on the independents 14 years before I got to WWE. And I've been gone from WWE for 7 years now. So, I've been in wrestling for a very, like, going on 20, next year, it'll be 4 years. Um, and it's, something that I can't ever see myself stop doing, whether it's wrestling or being a manager like I was with Carmella, because I thought that went really well. I'm sure we'll get into that. I think that's my calling in wrestling right now is to be a manager like a Jimmy Hart or a Jim Cornette or like something like that, Bobby Heenan. But yeah, man, like I said, I just graduated high school and I got right into wrestling right afterwards.
Hmm. You mentioned some trials and tribulations growing up. You mind sharing some of those with us?
Well, yeah, like I was saying, I'm not the biggest guy, and I grew up in a neighborhood that's I'm not trying to cry about it, but it wasn't the nicest of neighborhoods, right? So I'm this small guy who just, I'm a nice guy and I'm happy go lucky. It doesn't matter what situation I'm in, I try to enjoy life. And I grew up in kind of a rough neighborhood and people would try to pick on me, but the good thing about me is, and maybe if somebody's watching this, I can help them. If people are trying to bully you or try to pick on you because you're smaller than them or you look different or whatever, you gotta always stick up for yourself. Always, even if it's scary. Even if it's scary, you got to stick up for yourself, and I always did. But we didn't have like cable growing up, so it was like hard. Like my grandfather had to like tape wrestling for me on back then it was VHSs, and I like on the weekends I would go to my grandparents' house and catch up on the wrestling. So I didn't even have cable. Um, and I didn't have like, I was always small and I didn't have any workout equipment or anything. I could look at the wrestlers on TV and notice that they're a lot bigger than me and look a lot cooler than me. And I'm like, man, but I don't have any means to do this. But my parents were great. They did what they could, and we always made sure we had food on the table. We just didn't grow up with like a backyard or anything cool, or which is fine. It made me appreciate stuff later on in life. But yeah, like it was tough. Baltimore, if you look up Baltimore, Maryland in the United States, it's a tough, tough place. And I'm not crying about it. That be growing up in that tough place got me ready for the tough life that was ahead, because life is tough no matter who you are. Everyone goes through things, right? And luckily for me, I have like, because I grew up with not having much. I appreciate everything I do have, and I have thick skin, and I don't worry about what people say, so it got me ready for a lot. But yeah, like getting in wrestling school. Like fast forward, I graduated high school. 4 days later, I started wrestling school in 2002. It's a lot different than now. It's a lot more tough back then, where you made you earn it. You had to earn getting on shows. You had to train hard. You had to set up and tear down rings, and I'm sure people. I see people still do that, but not like we did back in those days. It would take a while before you got on a show. You would really have to pay your dues. You really have to work hard at it, and you'd really have to like scratch and crawl for any opportunity. You would really, really have to work hard. It's not really the same these days, and I'm not trying to knock anyone, but it was a lot tougher when I first started. But again, I'm glad it was because it got me ready for a tough business. Because wrestling is a very, very tough business, and it's not for the weak in heart. You have to be tough physically and tough mentally to get ready for the wrestling business for sure.
How's it changed, James, over 23 years now? I mean, not just in terms of, obviously you mentioned that it was way tougher back then. In what sense do you mean? And also technically, for the wrestlers, let's say at WWE, how was the pro wrestling scene back then compared to how it is now in terms of the way the wrestlers train, the way they eat, the way they are training, practicing for games, for big shows like your WrestleManias and SummerSlams and things like that?
Well, for WWE, even since I left, and I left 7 years ago, they don't do as many house shows, right? So the wrestlers aren't wrestling as much. When I was there, we were still doing over 200 dates a year. You know, I dare to say, if you look it up, they're probably the average person there is maybe they're doing 100 dates, maybe not even that. When I was still there, like I said, we were doing over 200, so that's different. And then with the independents, what I came in 2002 here over here in the United States, there weren't a lot of independents in the country, so you really had to earn getting on a show because there wasn't that many. Especially in my area, there was like maybe like Combat Zone Wrestling that I got on a few times, Maryland Championship Wrestling who I did train with. There's a few good ones, ECWA that I don't think I ever wrestled on ECWA, but like nowadays, if somebody along the line, along the way figured out that they could just rent a building, purchase a ring, and now they're a wrestling promoter, and now they can let all their buddies on the show. Because somewhere somebody thought of that, and it's that simple. You could just rent a building and put a wrestling ring and buy a wrestling ring, put it in it. Now you and your buddies are wrestlers, meaning you didn't really train. You just kind of. So there's been a lot of that, and
It's kind of like social media. Everybody can become a media personality now.
right, and maybe not everyone should be doing that, and wrestling to be good at wrestling is very hard. Anyone can put on some wrestling gear and get in a wrestling ring and take some bumps and call themselves a wrestler. And it wasn't like that when I got in. It was really, really hard to get on shows. And now it's just too easy. And everyone's, man, like not everyone. There are people, maybe a minority, that feel entitled, like they feel like they deserve. The wrestling business owes no one nothing. Um, it's like a lot of entitlement these days, and it wasn't like that back then. You really, really appreciated being a part of it at all back when I started, and now it's so much entitlement, man. Like, and this is kind of off subject, but not really. Do you see these stories on the internet? And I won't name any names because I'm friends with a lot of these people that, oh, I make more money now than when doing the indies than I did in WWE. You see people say that, right?
Mm.
And my question to them would be, did you make more money on the indies before you were in WWE? No. Or did WWE give you a
Give you the platform.
platform with millions and millions of people that now know who you are? So therefore, when you leave WWE and you have a name, now, yes, for a year or two, you will probably make more money because you could charge a lot more than for a match than what you were making in WWE for a match. And this is what they don't say in these interviews. And now you don't have to pay taxes. It's like cash under the table. Now you're not paying taxes. So and that only happens for a year or two unless you go like to another big company. If you're just on the independents, you get like a nice year or two where people want to book you because you're fresh off of WWE and you have that WWE name. But after that, if you don't get picked up, and it significantly goes down. And they're not saying
Mhm.
that in these interviews. They just want to be like, "Oh, I make more money now than I did in WWE." It's because WWE gave you that television time. Like, I don't know. Well, I think a lot of people knock WWE when they leave, and me, I never did, and I never will. I made a good living there. I lived my dream there. Um, I had a great time there. I got to travel the world, and somebody else paid for it. You know what I mean? Like I got to see the world, and I didn't have to. They were paying me to go travel the world. I had action figures and T-shirts and video games and all that. Like I think these people forget this when they leave. Like you were given all this. Yeah, maybe you didn't.
You mean
And
there are wrestlers out there who are ungrateful?
yeah, like I get it. You might not have been treated the way you wanted to. You might not have been booked the way you wanted to be booked. But sometimes
But
you
come
got
on,
to just.
everybody wants to be the main event, right?
But another thing I think they forget, how many people would just kill for the opportunity that they got. That there's a lot of people, a lot of good wrestlers, very good wrestlers on the independents who never get that opportunity, have never gotten that opportunity, and never will get that opportunity to be on WWE television, whether it's Raw, SmackDown, NXT, whatever. Which NXT is, you're not as popular if you never made the main roster. The Raw, SmackDown, that's when people really start picking your name up. But
Correct.
man, I see that sometimes, and I'm friends with some of these people. And like I said, I don't want to name any names. There's a majority. There's a lot of them. I'm like, guys, like, just be appreciative of the opportunity, even if it didn't end the way you wanted it to, or you didn't get treated, the way you wanted to be treated, or whatever. Take that opportunity you were given and say, thanks for the opportunity. Now go bust your butt on the indies. Like, look at Matt Cardona. Like, was Zack Ryder for 15 years on WWE, got let go. He's not bashing WWE. He's going, okay, all right, I'm gonna take what you give me and I'm gonna run with it and make myself worth something. And he did. And I don't know. It's just my opinions, man. Like, I'll never knock WWE. I was appreciative of the opportunity. I'm glad I got to, I'm very happy and fortunate I got to live my dream. And I would never sit here and go like it was a pleasure and an honor to be there, and it's what I wanted to do growing up, and I never forgot that. Like I'm like, man, like there was things. Yeah, I enjoyed my whole run. There was things that I was like, yeah, maybe this ain't the best creative, but who cares? Like, not these writers, they're not perfect. No one's freaking perfect, But they have a hard job. They got to write all this television year around, like a lot of television, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, PLEs, like it's a lot. So sometimes all these ideas that they're writing all year, not everything's going to be great. It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of content. Not everything's going to be perfect. Not everything's going to be amazing, you know. And then sometimes things are amazing. You're like, wow, this is so amazing. Like, you know, John Cena and Dominic Mysterio from last week's Raw was amazing. You know, so you know, I don't know. I'm myself am very appreciative that I got to be there. Is all I'm saying. So
Tell me how you got the WWE gig in the first place, the match with Braun Strowman. Like, how did that come about? What were you doing at what point, and did someone get in touch with you for that? And how did that entire story go?
well, that's a good question. So, like, when they go anywhere, they have extras in the back. Like, they essentially indie workers from the area that email WWE, or maybe they know somebody there, or whatever, and they get to be come in and be extras. Whether you get to do a squash match like I did with Strowman, or you get to be a Rosebud with Adam Rose like I did one time, or you know, if they need like fake security guards, or you're an extra, just like a movie or a TV show. You're in the background. You're just there to help the show for that particular night. Um, so I knew a referee, his Derek Moore. Him and I went to wrestling school together, and he was refereeing on Raw. And you know, he would tell me who to email. You know, that's all he could do. He couldn't say, "Hey, give him this spot." No,
Yeah.
he
Hmm.
said, "Yeah, here's the email. Email them. Say you want to be an extra." So I would email. Sometimes I would get invited. Sometimes I wouldn't. But when I would get invited, I would always be respectful, always be kind, and always show my face and all. And then the Strowman match, Arn Anderson, well, like I said, he was the agent. There was like six of us, six extras, and he goes, "Hey," and he points at me because I was the smallest one. He goes, "Let me see you throw a punch." He said, "If you can throw a good punch, you're gonna be on Monday Night Raw tonight." And he said, "But you know, throw a punch, don't hurt him." So I threw the punch, and he goes, "You got," and all he said was, "You got the match," and that was it. And I was like, "Whoa!" Like that's it's so cool, like how stuff can happen so quickly. And you know, he just asked me maybe if I would have thrown a bad punch, he wouldn't have put me in the match. But I threw a really good punch, and he put me in the match, and the rest it just escalated from there, man. It's really like it's definitely
Serendipity.
what's that?
Serendipity, like
Yeah,
something that was
yeah.
just meant to
Meant to
happen.
be. It's definitely something made for a movie, really. Like it really is, man. The way it happened, it could be a really awesome movie, you know.
Yeah. Who
So
knows? Who knows? There might just be one.
maybe you never know. You never know, but it really could be. I think so.
So of course you worked with AJ Styles and Dean Ambrose and of course Carmella. What was the locker room's reaction like to your sudden rise? Because it was really that sudden. Like you became kind of like an overnight sensation, and I know that it took you probably 14 years to become one, but it was an overnight sensation in WWE. So what were your fellow wrestlers' reaction like?
Well, yeah, another good question. So there's two answers to that question. One is like the people that had been in the business a long time, that did independence and had been around. They understood it. They're like, oh, this kid's catching fire. He's getting over, so they have to use him. Now there's those guys that maybe were just at NXT that had no previous wrestling history or wrestling experience, and to them, you just get signed to NXT, and then when you're ready, you just go to the main roster. So they're like, some of them were like, "What? Why is this kid on the main roster? He didn't go to NXT." Which I always tell people, I wish I would have had some time in NXT because they have time and money invested in the people that did go through NXT. So you get more opportunities if you did. Me, I just caught fire and like, you know, I'm essentially I got adopted like a stepchild. You know what I mean? Like so, I'm not going to be treated the same, which is fine. But no, I got along with everybody after they got to know me and everything. Like I got along with everybody just fine. But yeah, like there's people that have just been in wrestling for a long time, went through the independents, trained at a school, then got signed to WWE, and they understood the business. And then there was those who maybe because they played football, you know, that got signed because they look good and they're good looking people, and which is great. Television is all about having good looking people, people that look better than me, right? Like that's what television is, and I get it. So the ones that didn't have the experience, I don't think understood it at first. But once they got to know me, and they're like, "Oh, okay, he's cool, and this is cool. It's happening for him." And yeah, it was a good question.
Yeah, I mean, like someone like let's say Logan Paul comes to mind, right? Like I only ever saw him on YouTube, and then the next thing I know, he's boxing Floyd Mayweather, and then he's on WWE, things like that. So it's ultimately it's entertainment. So whatever gets the tickets sold, and whatever's box office is ultimately going to make it right on TV.
Yeah, Logan Paul obviously he's it's like he's meant to be a WWE superstar because he
He's
looks
got that
great.
aura, yeah.
He's got that aura. He looks great. He talks great. He has a platform. That's the thing. I don't think anybody can argue with his platform on why WWE will want to use him on television. He has a huge following,
Yeah.
and he's a good-looking guy, and he's in great shape, and he's athletic, and he's picking up wrestling quicker than anyone I've ever seen pick up wrestling before in my life. And I think eventually he's going to be world heavyweight champion. I do. I think he's going to win the world title one day. I really he's that good, and he didn't go through NXT and all that. I mean, I wasn't a celebrity before any of that, so it's a lot different. But yeah, maybe people are upset that maybe he's getting opportunities that they don't. I don't know. I'm not there anymore, but he definitely deserves every opportunity he's getting. He's got the platform. He's working hard at the craft. He's picking it up quickly, and he's doing a great job.
Mhm. You mentioned that some people there was this misnomer that you got the WWE job because you became this viral meme worthy or a viral meme on the internet and things like that. Uh, but your WWE character, it obviously involved like a lot of comic skits and things like that. Uh, uh, I want to ask if as a wrestler, as a serious wrestler, did you ever feel I mean, might come off as a bit silly, but like for lack of a better word, like slightly humiliated in the sense that you're not really getting to showcase your technical wrestling talent. Did you ever feel like you had to prove that, and you wanted that chance to prove that in WWE?
Um, that's man, you're asking some good questions. No, I get the business. When The Rock says know your role, I knew my role was to be comedic, right, and to be a character. It's funny if you watch the match I had with Becky Lynch on SmackDown from London. I wrestle a little bit in that match. I do this one technical counter into a wrist lock from a waist lock, and you can hear Corey Graves on the commentary go, "What a counter!" It's if you go back and watch the match, he says that because I show a little bit of wrestling. Um, and when I get to the back, Vince was like, "Oh, I don't care that you know how to wrestle. You're here to be funny. Why did you?" He's like, "You did some good like technical wrestling out there. Why did you do that?" Like And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Becky just, Becky and I were kind of like the same size, so I figured I could wrestle her a little bit, and I think she thought the same thing. But if you watch that match, the crowd's really into it and everything, but they're mostly into the comedic spots where she's giving me airplane spins or whatever. That's what I was there for, was comedic relief. They had that thing one time when Carmella like had me on a leash and I'm barking like a dog, which whatever, I don't care. Like I just didn't think it was entertaining. Like I didn't care that I was doing it. Whatever, I'll do whatever they want me to do. It didn't matter to me. But I was like, man, that was the only time. That was the only time where I was like, it's really not that good. Like this is not like good TV, I thought. And I couldn't get into it. I couldn't feel it. And I felt like Carmel and I had been good heels. I stole the Money in the Bank contract and gave it to her. That big moment with Money in the Bank, and I
Yeah, I
thought,
was just going to come to that.
yeah, and we're getting a lot of booze and a lot of good heat. And then they went to that, and I'm like, kind of kills it, So, but that was the only time. Other than that, no, I didn't think, man, I got to have a technically sound wrestling. I got to go to 205 Live and wrestle everybody and show what I could do. And that takes away from the character James Ellsworth was there. So, yes and no to answer your question.
Yeah, interesting. From what I gather, it's not really then the wrestlers. I mean, maybe a John Cena or an Undertaker or a Triple H. Triple H now, of course, but it went back when he was only a wrestler also. Uh, Maybe some of the WWE guys, they do get to call the shots about what their storyline could be, but for most of them, is it then just kind of like you're given a script and you have to follow it, or do you get a chance to brainstorm with the writer, like you had this creative difference, which is I think very normal in any kind of a creative job. It's like a television, like filmmaking, where you can have creative differences, and you maybe didn't think that that was necessarily funny, or that was the moment that should have followed the 2017 Money in the Bank briefcase moment. But did you get a chance to voice out these things to the writer?
Yeah, and I feel like I wasn't a top guy, right? So like I feel like the top guys, like you just said, get a little more creative freedom than the guy that's not on top. And but this stinks for me, man. I always felt like I got here being myself, so let me try to like give a little bit of me here. And yeah, maybe I spoke up a little too much, and that was my fault. I'm like, hey, I'm not really feeling this. Can we? How do we fix this? Or how? I just wanted people when I was out there. I just wanted people to be entertained. I didn't want people to be bored when I was out there, or think that what I personally was doing sucked. Like I wanted to always just do a good job, and that's
Hmm.
honest. I didn't care if wins or losses or anything. That's all crap. Like it doesn't like that. None of that matters. It's the story you're telling, and I just want to tell good stories. So that was like I said, that was the only time where I felt the story was a little weird, and I voiced that, and maybe I shouldn't have, but I would tell anybody that's there now, like, unless you're a top guy, just do what you're asked, do it the best of your ability, have fun with it, do what you can while you're out there. Because when you're out there, it's up to you to perform whatever they gave you. It's up to you to perform it to the best of your ability and to make it work. So, I could cry about, oh, I didn't really like when they put me on the leash with Carmel. Okay, but that's what they had for me. So if I would just go out there and make it entertaining, and which I tried, like a lot of times I try to like get away from her and she pulled me back, stuff like that. But we didn't get to do it much on TV because I think it was a little edgy for back then. And but on the house shows, we'd have some fun with it, and stuff was working with it. But yeah, that's the thing. Like if you're a top guy there, there's a pecking order, right? So if you're a top guy, you're going to get more leverage than a guy that's mid card or opening card guy. That's it. Like any other job, there's a pecking order.
Understood. So, talk to me about the 2017 Money in the Bank moment. Like, you were obviously you got the briefcase for Carmella, and it caused a huge fan reaction, and you were at the center of that storyline. So, how did you absorb that moment from your lens?
Oh man, I loved it. So we didn't find out that was happening to the day of, but I kind of guessed it. Because Vince started getting real big on Carmella and I. Like first we heard Becky was going to win that Money in the Bank, and that was like the SmackDown before the pay-per-view. And I told Carmella, I said, I think you're winning it. I said, we're getting a lot of heat now. Like we're doing our thing. I think you're gonna win it. No, they're gonna give it to Becky. I'm like, I don't know. I think I'm gonna help you win it. And they're like, and she goes, they're not gonna do that. It's the first women's one. Like they're not gonna have you, a man, help win the first ever women's Money in the Bank. And we get to the building that day, and John Laurinaitis goes, he pulls me aside. He goes, hey, here's the plan. You're going to help Carmella win. You're going to grab the briefcase and give it to her. And then 2 weeks later on SmackDown, we're going to do another one because we know that'll draw ratings. So you're the controversy. You're the guy that creates this controversy. So now we have to do another one. So we do another one on SmackDown. It's going to pop us a big rating. We're excited about this. And I'm like, heck yeah. And then I go to Carmella. I'm like, hey, you're winning. He just told me you're winning. I'm helping you win it. And she was like, what? What? They're going to do that even though it's the first women's one? I said, that's why they're going to do it because it's the first women's Money in the Bank. That's why they're going to do it. It's going to make people upset and it's going to cause this big chaos. So then when you guys have the rematch, people are going to be like, all right, maybe they'll get it. Maybe we'll have a distinctive winner this time. Which in the rematch, I still interfered, but Becky took care of me, and then Carmella ultimately went up the ladder and grabbed it on her own. But again, internet, right? They think they think they did the second one because the first one made everyone mad. No, they always had the second one planned the whole time. Before the first one ever happened, the second one was planned, which is crazy. People, again, the internet's kind of There's a lot of good with it, but there's way more bad. It's kind of ruined the world. So like, people that's just a small example. People really, oh yeah, we did it. It was our outrage that made them do the second one. No, no, second was planned before the first one. That's just the truth. Like, but that was a great couple of weeks of television, man. Like we came out that when we did the pay per view, the Money in the Bank. SmackDown back then was on Tuesdays. I remember we came out on SmackDown 2 days later, and the boos were so loud on us. I was like, man, and I told Carmella, I
Well,
said,
you knew that was coming.
yeah, I loved it, loved it. That's the reaction we were looking for. And I told Carmella, I said, there's no way you don't become women's champion. This is too much now. This is too much. Like they have to give it to you. And she's like, man, she was scared she wasn't going to win the second one. And I was like, no, they'll still have you win the second one. Because then, what are they going to do? A third one? Because they're going to be like, no, you won the first one, then somebody else won the second one. So you guys got to settle it in a third one. Nah, I said, you're gonna win the. I've been watching wrestling my whole life, so I kind of like can guess how these things are going to go. And it was a great run for her. I think her and I together. I don't know if she understands this or not. Maybe I'm going to see her on Saturday at autograph signing. Um, that was definitely her best run there at
Mhm.
WWE because she won the Money in the Bank, and then ultimately she won the women's title. Once I wasn't with her anymore and I left, she never won the Money in the Bank or the women's title again. Yeah, she was like women's tag champion a few times and like it did other things, but she was never women's champion again. And she never got that top spot that she had when her and I were together. Because her and I was such a good thing, I think, like a combo of characters. Because she was a great character as well, great character, and I think we worked well together because we were opposites, and opposites attract, as they say. And I think the us being opposites attract attention from the audience, and it worked so well. And she got to become champion out of it. And as a manager, I was her manager, right? I was so proud of that because I helped her become, get to the point where now they had to give her the title. And, as a manager, that's your goal. You need to take whoever you're managing and help give them the rub for them to become the star. Now, it's not about me anymore. It's about helping make this person. And I feel like I 100% did that with Carmella. So.
Mhm. Interesting. Uh, was the creative difference that we spoke about before, was that the reason that you left WWE?
No, so it's weird,
So
right? I left in November of 2017. They essentially released me, right? They did. So I think that the creative difference might have been like, well, yeah, now she's got the Money in the Bank briefcase. She don't really need you. She has the briefcase. Maybe that was it. And they have to write television for other people. They have to bring people up from NXT. So when you bring people up from NXT, you got to get rid of some people to make some room for the television. So in 2018, they called me. They're like, "Psych, we're not going to release you. We're going to bring you back." And they didn't release me. Like they gave me the 90 days. You know how they give you the 90 days? In the middle of that, they called me like, "Hey, we're going to continue your contract and bring you back and just let you work out the rest of your contract." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I was so excited. I was like, "Well, what about all the indie dates I got?" They're like, "You can do your indie dates. Just come here. We're going to bring you back for TV." So they brought me back, and I did a couple of months of TV, and then once I left because my contract was up. The day they had Paige fire me on SmackDown because she was the general manager, my contract was up the next day, and that's why I was gone. And like I said, they have so many people down there at NXT in the Performance Center. They have to create spots for these people. So me not being in their system, to me, I think that's what it was like. All right, well, this guy's kind of like an enhancement guy that Vince hired because he saw something in him, and it worked out. I mean, they sold a lot of T-shirts off of me and stuff, which is great. It worked out for everybody, and yeah, but I didn't think they really knew what to do with me after that. To me, the stuff I did with Carmella was great. I think I could do that for the rest of my career. I could be a manager for anybody and help progress whatever character that they are. That's what I would love to do going forward.
did you try to renegotiate the contract? I'm sure you did, right? Because I just you were waxing lyrical about the WWE and how it was such a great place to
Yeah,
work at, and I'm pretty sure the money was good too. So
yeah, yeah. Um, you know, this is good. This is just being honest. I'm very honest. I really thought, and again, this is me being, I made a mistake. I really thought they were just going to offer me another deal. I didn't ask. I thought like I was getting reactions, right? I'm getting reactions, and my numbers for television were doing good. So I thought, well, they're gonna offer me another deal, and then they just never did. Which so that was my fault for thinking I'm so cool that they're gonna offer me another deal, and they just never, and they just didn't. Well, I'm laughing because that again that was my fault. I should have asked like, hey, is there any way we can negotiate another deal? I would love to still be here. I should have showed that initiative. I did not. I was being, I guess, cocky. I guess is the word. Yeah, and thinking, they're going to give me another deal. I'm getting reactions every night. My TV numbers are doing good. They're going to give me another deal. And then when the deal was up, they did. I was like, whoa. And maybe I should have. I don't know. I don't. I'm bad at that, man. Like the politicking part. Maybe I should have got an agent or something to talk to him for me, or I just never tried. I figured if they want me, they'll give me a call. They know my number, and maybe that's not smart on my part. Maybe I should have showed more initiative into trying to, get another contract or stay in there because the character is something you could do a lot of things with, and I do believe that. So but that's the way it was, and I just felt like they had all these NXT people, which I understand that they got them in this performance center. They're training them, they're teaching them how to do promos, they're teaching them how to wrestle, they're giving them a platform in NXT to practice all that. Then ultimately they bring the ones that they like up to the main roster, and you got to make room for them. I understand that whole process. So
And of course, after you left, you started ACW. Uh, how's it been running your own wrestling promotion?
well, actually, I started ACW. Well, I didn't start ACW. ACW started 2009. Um, and I took it over in 2011 or 12. I think 2012. So I've been running. I've been a part of ACW since 2009, and I've been running ACW since 2012. Even when I was in WWE, they would have shows every other month. I'd be there, but I wouldn't be on the shows because I wasn't
Hmm.
allowed. But I would be running the shows from the back. And I still do that to this day. We run a lot of shows now because ever since leaving WWE, I mean, a pandemic happened right after I left WWE, all kinds of stuff. So once we came back in 2021 from the pandemic, I've been running a lot of shows, probably like 30 to 40 a year between doing festivals and doing just regular buildings, and
Is
and I
that
love it,
what
man.
you do primarily now?
Yeah, I want to do that. So yeah, I run a lot of shows, and I still wrestle in the indies, and I do a lot of conventions. Like this weekend, I have a show Friday for ACW, acwtix.com for anybody there in India that wants to fly over and see an ACW show, acwtix.com. Um, but yeah, like this weekend, so I have a show Friday for ACW. Then Saturday, I'm driving up to New York. Well, after the show Friday, I'm driving up to New York, which is about 4 hours. I'm doing the big event convention with a lot of big stars there. AJ Lee's going to be there. Goldberg's going to be there. Sting's going to be. A lot of people do. There's like 50 wrestlers doing autographs, and I'm one of them. So I'm driving up to do that from like 10 to 2. And then at 2 o'clock, I'm driving 4 hours back and wrestling on another show. So I'm running a show, doing an autograph session, and then wrestling on another show, all in 2 days this weekend. So I still wrestle. I still run shows. I still do autograph signings. I do whatever. I love wrestling. I do whatever people call me and ask me to do as it pertains to wrestling, and I'm having a great time still. And I
Exactly the life that a 10-year-old James Morris wanted to live, right?
exactly, man. You're a smart guy. This I don't whine, cry, bitch, or complain because this is what I asked for, right? This is what I always dreamed of. Whether WWE is the big dream, accomplished it, okay. Now I'm still a wrestler for a living. I have no other job. I have a wife, I have 2 kids, and I take care of everybody by wrestling still. And you're right, 10-year-old James, that's what he wanted. And that's what I got. And yeah, sometimes some days are harder than the others, just like any other job. But I don't complain about it. You got to just go do it. You just got to keep going. If you keep going, you don't know where your final destiny is going to be. Like, maybe if I keep going, maybe WWE call me next year. AJ Styles is retiring. You never. Maybe they call me to be a part of that. Like, I don't know. Like, hopefully, and you just don't know. And guess what? If I quit and I stop and I just surrender and be like, I'm done with this, I'll never know. I'll never know. So I just keep going. I keep, whether I'm wrestling in front of 75 people or 75,000 people, which I've done both. Uh, I give it my all to entertain the people that are watching me perform, and because I love it so much, man, I do. I couldn't see myself doing anything else because this is what I've always wanted to do, like you said.
What's your perspective now that you've been a kind of like a full-time promoter now since you left WWE, and you've also have this extensive wrestling repertoire under your belt now for since 23 years now. Uh, what do you find more difficult, and what perspective, let's say, do you have that someone who is only a wrestler wouldn't have?
That's that, man. You do a good job at this. Are you? Do you get a lot of followers? Because you should. Because you doing a good job.
Thanks.
So it's a promoter. Like we were talking about WWE earlier, how people leave WWE, they start knocking them, right? That's everywhere. I do have this position where I can look at things from a promoter side because I've been promoting wrestling shows so long, and I've been obviously wrestling for 23 years since I was 17 years old. I'm 40, so I've been wrestling my whole adult life. So I could see promoter sides of things, I could see wrestler side of things, and I could tell you the promoter side of things is very thankless. It's a thankless job. They get all the heat, they get all the slack. The wrestlers kind of want. And the promoter, if they don't give, then the wrestlers start trying to give the promoter a bad name or something. They don't understand it. They don't understand that it takes a lot to promote a wrestling show. You got to advertise, you got to book venues, you got to book wrestlers, you got to book doctors to show up at the show. You gotta deal with like 20 wrestlers or how many you're booking. There's a lot. You gotta deal with bonds, and you gotta deal with insurance stuff, and they just think, oh well, you're making all this money. No, 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 no. Like it's a trick to make money at it. Like you got to it takes a lot, and luckily in our area I've been running a long time, so we have a fan base that follows us, and we do pretty decent. But yeah, the wrestler, a lot of wrestlers don't understand that. They're like, I think the promoters get a bad reputation because yes, there are bad promoters that treat the wrestlers like crap too. There is that, but there's not a lot of them. They're like not like you would think, and the promoters are just trying to pull on a show and have for me, I want to put on a show, make sure the fans are having a good time, and I do want to turn a profit at it because it is a business. You still there?
Yeah, 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 I'm still here.
Okay,
I, I,
sorry
lo-
guys.
I lost you. Sorry.
Yeah, somebody called my phone or something. But yeah. So yeah, like it's just a thankless job being a wrestling promoter, and the wrestlers I think need to respect the promoters more because if it wasn't for the promoters, you have no place to wrestle. So just be a little more kind to your promoters, and if you don't like a promoter, all you have to do is not work for them. You don't have to. Nobody's making you work for anybody. It's up to you. Like if you don't like a certain place, you don't have to talk smack about it, and you just go to somewhere else and wrestle. That's all. It's really that simple. So um,
James, I actually was reading somewhere that 80% of success in any job is actually how you deal with people. And do you agree with that? And what do you think is, now that you're a promoter as well, so you have to manage like you were mentioning, a lot of people, not just the wrestlers, but I'm sure that some are easier to manage than the
oh
others.
my god.
There's ego issues and things like that. uh, do you agree with that? And what's been your experience dealing with people?
I do agree with that 100%. I feel like you have to be kind to people, even if they're not so kind back to you. But at the same time, You gotta let them know that you're the boss. Like you could be like, "Hey, I hear you. I understand you. I'm listening. But if it's still something I want you to do, I'm the one paying you, I expect you to do it. And if you don't want to do it, that's fine. I understand. No one's putting a gun to your head. You can go somewhere else. But yeah, but I try to be nice to people. I'm trying to be kind to everyone. And you're right. A lot of some are harder to manage than others. But you try to be kind to everyone, and then if they take your kindness for weakness, then you got to move on from them. You know.
Mhm. Right. All right, James. One final question that I have for you. Um, you know, as someone who's been in the public domain now for many years, obviously the highs are very often there. This everything's happening in front of the world, right? Your professional success is it's often celebrated a lot. Uh, but then there's also some lows which can be equally harshly criticized. And one such moment and one such incident happened with you in 2018.
Mhm.
How did you deal with that, and how did you see that entire incident? Because obviously it was later proved that it was actually all false and untrue, and
Oh.
you didn't deserve any of it. So it just goes to show that it can, there's people who are, are kind of, they're full of malice, and they're out to get people who are just the kind of doing their job, and can fall victims to such things. And like you
Yeah.
said, the internet can be a pretty brutal place for everybody, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, so how do you deal with that?
Well, like I said earlier, luckily for me, man, like I do have very thick skin because I've been through a lot in my life, and um, it's like the internet, like I said earlier, like they read like a headline or something, and they just think something's so true, and they don't let things play out and do actual research on it. Like me, am I a perfect person? No, but like I'm a father of two. I'm a husband, and I have a clean criminal record. I've never been arrested in my life. Like, cops never talked to me about me committing a crime ever in my life. So, I think my record speaks for itself. I understand people can be easily manipulated on the internet, so I don't blame anyone for that.
Did you lose a lot of followers, you think?
Um, yes and no. I didn't pay much attention to it, honestly. Like, I
Wow, you
appreciate the.
really do have thick skin, because I mean, come on, as a human being, that sort of thing, it's got to affect you, right?
Right. Well, you would think so, right? Well, I mean, yeah. Like first, I'm like, oh, this is a bummer because this ain't true, and people think this is true. Obviously, if something's not true, and people do, like, think about if you, right? Let me see, Prem. Is that how you say your name?
Yeah, Prem.
Okay. So imagine if you, Prem, got accused of committing a crime, and hundreds of thousands of people all over the world saw that you got accused of this, but nothing ever happens to you. All these people know that this crime could have been committed, right? But nothing ever happens to you. You never get arrested. You never get any kind of like a cop doesn't even talk to you, and it's because you didn't do anything. But there's people out there that might think you did because they read it on the internet. Like that's crazy, right? Like you would think they would go, well, if he committed a crime and hundreds of thousands of people found out about it, surely he'd be arrested. You know what I mean? Like just so, nah, man,
It's almost kind of like it's happening in like a fictional world, in a real world, which is indeed a real world.
yeah. So, no, man, yeah, it might have bothered me a little bit, but you got to, the pandemic shortly happened after that, and everything got turned upside down, and then you're not paying. At the same time, too, my grandfather was dying, so I was more focused because I was very close to my grandfather. So I was like, or around that same time, I was more focused on that. I wasn't worried about me. I was worried about that because that was my buddy who I loved, who showed me wrestling, who taped those VHSs for me, and so I was more focused on that. And yeah, of course, it's going to affect you a little bit, but man, I can't tell you. Got to get your name right, Prem. That I try to keep it going, man. I try to keep it positive. Like if you show me love, I'm going to show you love back. I feel bad for anyone that's ever actually been a victim of a crime, or been put into a place, but put into situations that they didn't ask to be in. But I've never done that to anyone, and I feel bad for those that actually have to go through that because there are people that lie about going through that, and they're not really going through it. You know what I mean? That's not fair to the people that actually have gone through some stuff. So that's not cool.
Understood.
you know. But yeah, man, that was so long ago, and like I said, I'm happily married. I got my 2 daughters. I just try to be the best father I can be the best husband I can be. Not at all perfect. Anybody who comes on here and says they're perfect, they're lying. But I do my best to be a good person, and I think my record speaks for itself. So,
Yeah, it does. And James, finally, what is it that you're looking forward to now?
man, just uh, like I said earlier, it's keeping it going, man. Like still love to perform. When I get in a wrestling ring, wrestling hurts. I don't know if you ever tried it. It hurts, man. That ring
I
hurts.
haven't.
But there's just something about being in front of that audience that, like I said, I don't care if it's 75 people or 75,000 or anything in between, because I've been blessed to have been in front of both and everything in between. There's just something about, like, I was on a show. I'm going to give you an example. I was on a show last week, and there was a 6 foot tall girl. She's probably going to be signed to WWE one day. She has a great look. Christian Reed, look her up. 6'4", and this girl gets in the ring and she gives me a choke slam. Right, there's about 200 and some people there. 200 and some people. And when she choke slammed me, because I'm the bad guy, she's the good guy. Pretty like 6'4", baby face girl. So when she choke slammed me, they got so loud. It felt like there was 100,000 people there. They were so loud for it. They popped so big for this. And I remember like rolling out of the ring and hearing the crowd's reaction. And this is last week. I'm like, this is why I still do this. This is cool. This is cool to get that emotion out of people from doing this art form. Wrestling is to me, the best art form in the world, because it's really, there's a lot of creativity to it. There's a lot you could do with it, and when it's done right, like that, just little old James Ellsworth being a little heel, talking smack and all, and then this 6'4" girl gets in a. That's really, I mean, like, you're smiling right now because you're visualizing, like, wait, that would be fun to see, and maybe I'll send you the video when it comes out. But yeah, so that's what I mean by keep it going. I'm gonna keep doing stuff like that. I'm gonna keep running my shows. I'm gonna keep entertaining people wherever I go. Hopefully I can wind up there in India. I'm gonna talk to my boy Chris Masters about that.
You
Um
should,
I
yeah.
I would love to come over there, man. I know you guys are awesome fans over there. Um so I definitely want to come perform over there. Just stuff like that. Stuff I haven't experienced. I've been all over the world. India's not a spot. When I first got released in WWE, they came to India the month after, and I was supposed to go, but I got let go a month before. Remember, they came over there and Triple H beat Jinder Mahal in that house show. I was supposed
Yeah.
to be on that house show, and I wasn't because I had got released the month before they brought me back 6 months later or whatever. And I was like, and I was so upset about that. I was like, man, I wanted to go to India. I remember that's one of the things that I was upset about. I was like, I really wanted to go to India. So I think that's another part of it is I want to experience things I haven't experienced yet, like maybe like coming there to India.
All right. Okay, James Ellsworth, this was terrific. Thank you so much for your time, man.
Thank you, man. You know what? I'm not just saying this, man. You really did a good job. Like you really, and I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know you, and I think you asked some very fair and good and smart questions, and I appreciate that. And I very much enjoyed this, and I hope whatever you do with this, it keeps getting bigger and bigger. And I feel like if you keep doing it the way you're doing it, it will. And continue the good work.
Thank you. Thank you very much, James. That means a lot
Take
to me.
care. God bless. Stay safe. And remember, any man with 2 hands has a fighting chance. Sorry, buddy.